The police of the French town of Poitiers received an anonymous letter in 1901. Its contents read, "Mr. Attorney General, I have the honor to inform you of an extremely serious situation. I'm talking about an old maid who is locked up in Madame Monnier's house. A woman has been living half-starved and sleeping on a rotten litter for the last 25 years among her own filth. Blanche Monnier was born on March 1, 1849 in the French city of Poitiers. Her family belonged to a noble aristocratic family and was respected by local residents and government officials. The girl's father held the post of dean at a local university. He was constantly busy and did not consider it necessary to participate in the upbringing of the heiress. He was an intelligent and educated man who devoted himself to work, very kind and weak. After his marriage, his wife got the better of him. He became a classic henpecked. Blanche's mother was a famous socialite. The girl grew up a modest and timid child. Relations with parents were not the best, especially with the mother. A domineering woman completely controlled her daughter's life. According to contemporaries, she was stupid, very nervous, quarrelsome, and incredibly greedy. Louise did not follow hygiene rules and, according to the servants, always wore the same dirty dress. She had a constant conflict with her daughter, while she shifted the care of her to the servants. Growing up, Blanche began to lead a secular lifestyle. The girl attended receptions, the most luxurious dinners, and was a welcome guest at any event. By the way, according to contemporaries, she was incredibly pretty and smart. The most noble suitors tried to woo Monnier, but she was in no hurry to make a choice, preferring to wait for a real feeling. And in 1876, the girl's expectations came true. During one of the receptions, Blanche met a respected lawyer who was almost twice her age, and immediately fell in love. The man reciprocated her feelings, and a stormy romance broke out between the lovers, which was supposed to end in a wedding. On the way to family happiness, Blanche got up her mother, Louise Monnier. The woman accused her daughter that, having the opportunity to marry the most wealthy and noble suitors of the city, she chose a simple lawyer who not only was not a representative of an aristocratic family, but also did not have sufficient wealth and was much older than the girl. However, Blanche was not afraid of the prospect of quarreling with her mother. The girl decided not to give up and continue her relationship with her lover, secretly meeting with him in different parts of the city and planning to run away one day, leaving her parents' house. This went on for some time, but in March 1876 Blanche suddenly disappeared. The public was shocked by the sudden disappearance of a famous socialite, but Madame Monnier assured neighbors and friends that Blanche had an accident, as a result of which she died. This version suited everyone except the girl's lover, who did not stop trying to find her and made a lot of efforts to find out at least something about her whereabouts. Unfortunately, his efforts were unsuccessful. In fact, Blanche was alive. The girl turned out to be a prisoner of her own mother, who locked her daughter in a dark, tiny room in the attic of their mansion in the center of Poitiers and put forward an ultimatum: refusal to have a relationship with a lawyer or imprisonment. The resolute Monnier did not agree to the conditions of her mother and preferred to remain in captivity than to give up love, so she became a prisoner, deprived of the opportunity to see sunlight, eat normally and communicate with anyone except her own mother. Life under lock and key turned out to be a real nightmare. Very soon Louise Monnier began to go crazy from her own impotence in front of her daughter's will and began to treat her incredibly rudely. She did not give her normal food, leaving leftovers on the floor of the room as dinner, ignored requests to bring water for several days, took warm clothes and bedding from her cell, deprived her daughter of the opportunity to wash, comb her hair and even go to the toilet. It is not known whether Father Blanche knew about the atrocities of his wife. Perhaps by that time the man had died or left the family. However, Louise Monnier still had an assistant, her son Marcel, the elder brother of Blanche. The young man was well aware that his mother kept his sister under lock and key, but was not going to rescue her. Moreover, he played the role of an unfortunate relative and convinced the public that Blanche had passed away. It is not known what motives moved Marcel. Probably the young man suffered from a weak mind and was under the influence of an imperious parent, and therefore did not understand what was really happening in their house. In 1885, her beloved Monnier passed away. Having learned about this, the girl finally resigned herself to her fate. At that time, she had been locked up for 9 years, and began to gradually lose her mind from hopelessness. By the way, the conditions of her detention continued to deteriorate. For all these years, Blanche's mother never allowed her to leave the rooms, and the girl slept in a pile of food waste and her own secretions. The only living things she could communicate with were the rodents and insects that infested her place of detention. In April 1901, Madame Monnier became very ill and could have died. Blanche was left with little to no care. It was then that the police got an anonymous note in which someone talked about the Monnier family being under lock and key in the house. The story was incredible, but the Monnier family was famous for its quirks, so they did not discount the anonymous letter. In addition, the police remembered that 25 years ago, Blanche Monnier, a young, beautiful and cheerful girl with luxurious hair, cheerful eyes and an excellent figure, disappeared without a trace. The police came to the house of the venerable family on May 23, 1901. A search is a nervous affair, but Madame Monnier behaved calmly and with dignity. Of course, she is not a commoner. When the police got to her daughter's dungeon, they had to break the padlock. The moment the police opened the door to the prisoner's room, they were almost knocked off their feet by an unbearable smell. The room was completely dark, sanitary rules were not observed there. The windows were shuttered. To open them, they first tried to pull off the thick curtains, but a real stream of dust fell on the policeman. They opened the window, removing the shutters from their hinges, and saw a withered figure on the bed. The woman lay on a rotten straw mattress completely naked and covered in hair, among her own secretions and leftover food, which had turned into a dense crust. When Blanche, wrapped in clean blankets, was taken out of the house, her mother sat quietly at the table in the living room and drank coffee. Blanche was immediately taken to the hospital, where experts ascertained her severe exhaustion, weighed only 25.4 kilograms, and began treatment. The doctors of the hospital where the unfortunate prisoner was brought said that she was calm, washed herself with joy, ate and said, "How good it is." Blanche had her hair cut off, tangled over the years. Of course, the mother and brother of the prisoner were immediately detained, but Louise Monnier did not live to see the trial. The woman passed away 15 days after the detention, unable to withstand the yoke of public censure. By the way, this fact greatly upset those who knew the family. People believed that passing away was not enough punishment for a woman who locked her own child in a dirty room with rodents and bedbugs for a quarter of a century. This case received a wide public outcry. The public demanded punishment for the brother of the girl Marcel. The police continued to investigate the reasons for such a terrible act, and on June 9, 1901, the New York Times published an article in which the author spoke about the years of Blanche Monnier's captivity and said that it's impossible to even imagine what she's been through over the years. These words, printed on the pages of the most famous newspaper, drew even more attention to the sad story of Blanche. Brother Monnier was sentenced to 15 months in prison, but was soon released because the doctors declared him incompetent, and the police failed to establish the fact of his direct participation in the illegal acts against his sister. He himself said that he never restricted his sister's movements, and she herself decided not to leave the rooms in protest. It is noteworthy that the detectives also failed to establish who wrote the note that saved Blanche's life, but everyone guessed that it was her brother who wrote it. He was not afraid for his sister, because he had 25 years for this. He was afraid that after the death of his seriously ill mother, he would remain the main culprit. His help to his sister was in the nature of self-protection. Unfortunately, Blanche Monnier never managed to return to normal life. The captive's psyche was crippled, she suffered from nervous exhaustion and other behavioral disorders. The woman spent the rest of her life in the walls of a psychiatric hospital in the French town of Blois. She passed away in 1913 without regaining her sanity. This terrible story left a deep impression not only in the hearts of the locals who knew Blanche Monnier, but also found a response in the work of some famous authors.